Welcome back to Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches, where someday we'll get a video out within a relevant time span. I'm Noah.
I'm Richard. It's funny you should say that because I had the same thought.
I just dropped that on him. He had no prep for that.
That was good.
Today we will be discussing a show that is currently being hotly discussed on the internet.
But nowhere near as well as what we're going to do here this morning.
Exactly. Yes. So hit that subscribe button for amazing, somewhat timely videos. We're talking about Andor today. And you really seem to enjoy this this show. To the point, I think this is one of the first times since we started doing Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches, and we reviewed a show that you were actively ahead of me in the viewing process.
I was ahead of you by weeks in the viewing process.
Yeah.
I think you had to binge to catch up.
I think there was 1 week I had to catch up and watch 2 episodes, and like every week you either messaged me the day it came out or the day after it came out, and I hadn't watched it yet. So you really seem to enjoy this show. So why don't you kick this off? Go for it.
I'm going to give you the biggest example of this, and I don't care about spoilers on this one. If you haven't seen it, turn this off and go watch 12 episodes. But otherwise, we're talking about this show. I sent you a text message. And I'm just about to hit send, and I went, oh, wait a minute, and backspace. And I ask, have you seen the latest episode? And you replied with, I'll be watching it today. I'm like, oh! So 12 hours later, you text me, good episode, and I text back, freaking spinning lightsaber blades out of a ship. That was so cool. I don't know who thought of that. That was just incredible. You know, I'm watching this Luthen escape sequence, and I don't even remember what episode this was. It was like episode 8, 9,
like 8,
something.
9, 10,
deep into
like
the
that.
series.
Really deep.
He's caught in a tractor beam, and the Empire's about to get him, and he's as cool as a cucumber. He's just sitting there doing his stuff, and then suddenly lightsaber blades shoot out of his ship, and he spins and takes out 2 ships at the same time, and I just thought, that is so cool! And that is just pretty much how I approached this entire series. I had that much fun with it.
So for the 3 of you who are still abiding under a rock and refusing to go watch the episode, Andor is a Star Wars TV show about, it's a spin-off of Rogue One, in all technicality, a prequel, about Cassian Andor, one of the main characters from the movie Rogue One, which we loved, so go check out that video.
If you go back, our very second episode of Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches was Rogue One is the best Star Wars movie, and you can't convince us otherwise.
Yeah, you can't change our mind.
Yeah, I know a few people who agree with us.
Yeah, I know quite a few people who agree with us on that. And Andor had kind of a lot to live up to in that regard with a lot of people, because Rogue One actually was and is now becoming more popular.
And they exceeded that goal. They met the challenge, and then they went beyond.
Okay. It is a more mature take on the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
Not in a way that fans were expecting, I don't think, but in a way that I think works really well. So go ahead and take that away with that all that explanation out of the way.
The pacing of the show is as brooding as is Cassian Andor. And I just thought of that.
Yeah,
but
good.
I think that really captures my thoughts on it. First of all, I thought this was a 6-episode season, like so many of the Disney Marvel drops.
I was surprised when it was 12 episodes and confirmed for 2 seasons. Well, 12 episodes apiece. I was like, wait, this is an actual show?
This is not. I'm looking forward to season 2.
I can tell.
Talk about having a lot to live up to.
Yes,
they do have a lot to live up to. So I thought it was a 6-episode series, and at the end of episode 6 is basically the end of the heist, which is the focal part of the first 6 episodes is Cassian has been recruited to help the rebels steal basically a payroll.
Yes.
From so is this
a bunch of bombs, I think.
Yeah, is this considered the First Order, or is this considered
this
the Empire?
This is the Empire,
right?
This is the Empire.
And
technically, it's not even the Rebellion yet, because the Rebellion doesn't actually declare its existence until
that's right.
Until Rogue One: A New Hope.
5 years.
This is 5 years before. So this is the pseudo rebel.
Right. So they
pre-rebel group.
The end of episode 6 finishes with Luthen, the character played by Stellan Skarsgård, standing in his workshop and throwing his arms up in the air in celebration because they succeeded. And I thought to myself, wow, this was a weird show because the pacing was slow.
Yeah.
It was not quite plotting. Mm-hmm. The backstory of Cassian's childhood was odd.
Yeah, it was a little odd.
I'm not entirely certain what purpose it served, except that he had quite the dysfunctional background.
I think the purpose it's supposed to serve is to back up the line that he says in Rogue One, where he says, "I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old."
Okay.
Which obviously means now it wasn't necessarily the fight against the Empire. He's just been fighting.
Right.
Against,
he's just been fighting
authority.
Yes.
Since he was 6 years old. Or anything that could be deemed an authority figure, or...
It's very clear from the beginning of this that he kills without remorse and without second thought. He really does not care if it serves his purpose, but I think I guess maybe the backstory kind of shows why.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Right.
It makes sense. He very much... It's very much the Cassian we see in Rogue One.
Yes.
The difference is the Cassian in Rogue One has a purpose to drive his actions. This Cassian is in it just for himself and those that he cares about.
If I remember correctly, doesn't he kill somebody in an alley in the beginning of Rogue One?
He kills an informant,
right?
Who they were about to get caught,
right?
And he was he must have been worried that the informant was going to. Well, the informant was like, I can't get out of here. There's no way I'm going to be able to get out of here. He had a bad leg.
Right.
And Cassian's like, hey, it's going to be okay, and then shoots him in the back.
Right.
So that he doesn't get captured and doesn't spill the beans.
The Star Wars universe in episodes 4, 5, and 6 is a very clean universe.
Yes.
And you don't see the ugly side of the rebellion,
mm-hmm.
and you don't see the nasty side of spies and everything that they have to go through. Rogue One brings all of that out.
Yes.
Rogue One shows that
yes.
people have to be ruthless and cold-hearted and cruel, almost as
mm-hmm.
cruel as the Empire sometimes.
Yeah.
And they bring that out. And so his character... if you think about Cassian Andor, there's not a lot to like about him. Except that you find yourself rooting for him.
Yes.
In part because he's the underdog. In part because you want to see someone with a spark of good in them find the rest of the good and grow and develop.
Yes.
And I don't think he really ever does.
I don't think... Because here's the thing. This is a challenge that anything is going to have. It's such an odd situation that Andor finds itself in because Rogue One, I mean, spoilers for a movie that's been out for 6 freaking years, it ends with him dying.
Right.
And he did there was a little bit of character development there where he spares Jyn Erso's father and
right.
and works with her, and he has a little bit of growth there. So there's really not much Andor can do besides bridge the gap between where he started and where we see him in
right.
Rogue One. So you have to create a whole different character arc because that one's already been done. So I think the purpose of this show in terms of his character arc needs to be get him from I'm on my own, I only care about myself and my family, to hey, this rebellion is worth fighting for. He doesn't need to change his morals per se. He just needs to change his goal.
Yes,
and
this
that's
is
going to
true.
make him more righteous in the long run, or overall as a character, because
So in this path, he opens up the series by murdering 2 people, and who were, I mean, let's face it, they kind of deserved it.
Yeah,
but, and then he's on the run, and the character of Deidre Miro, who was, what was she, a captain? Was she a lieutenant? Something in the Empire, and she is on the trail of him, and she spends the entire 12 episodes trying to capture him.
she's an ISB agent.
Yes,
Imperial Service Bureau.
There you go.
It's the FBI CIA of the Empire.
And she's the one officer who's thinking outside of the box, who is, and the interesting thing about this, that and Major, was it Partagas, the guy, the older guy,
the older dude who's in
leading
charge.
the big thing. Yeah, I wrote the name down, and I now realize I can't pronounce it. Anyways, he's calm, he's in control, he's decisive.
Yep.
He's not cruel,
and he's open-minded to
very open,
the situation, and he's very logical and reasonable with his choices.
But there's almost a father-daughter relationship there.
Yeah.
And she's almost a protege. He clearly is looking out for her in her career. And I found myself rooting for them. I found myself, here's 2 characters in the Empire, and your comment during the series prison sequence.
Yeah.
You said something to the effect of, this really shows the ugly side of life in the Empire.
This show, more than any, okay, so Star Wars has everything's black and white. If you just look at the movies, there's good and there's evil. Right? If you go into Clone Wars, there's a little bit of nuance that surrounds it. Like the Separatists weren't all bad, they were being manipulated, etc.
The Jedi weren't all good.
Exactly.
Right.
But it still is very simple.
Yes.
It still is very simple, but it's good.
Yes.
But this, in the original trilogy, and even with Rogue One, all you see is Empire bad, Rebels good. And you don't really get to see why. Because Tatooine, we get to see its poverty, but it's also a desert planet and technically controlled by Jabba the Hutt.
Right.
So, it's poverty, but that just could be Tatooine. That could just be whatever. And we see Cloud City and stuff. And it's you don't get that sense that you don't see why the Empire is bad. You're just told the Empire is bad.
Right.
This really shows you what life under the Empire was like and why it's so horrible and why this Rebel Alliance is fighting so hard as they do in Rogue One.
Yes.
Which I think it counterbalances Rogue One. Rogue One shows that there's an ugly side to the good guys. This shows why there's an ugly side to the good guys.
There's definitely
the bad guys don't play fair.
A fighting fire with fire, element to it.
It just works. You see that prison is kind of horrifying. And I think the prison is the best part of the show. Personally, I think the prison's the best part of the show. That prison is horrifying.
The prison being as clean as it is, right?
Yeah.
And the prisoners so well disciplined.
Yep.
Right.
And so well groomed, and they're clean. They get food. They eat as much as they want.
Which actually is brilliant.
It is brilliant.
It
keeps them satiated and less likely to rebel because you get all the food that you could ever need. They want you to be well fed.
3 hots and a cot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It gave this series, it reminded me of a 70s dystopian future movie, right? With everything being filmed in white, the walls are white, everything is just bland.
Orange
in
offset.
the orange offsetting the white in the uniforms.
I see orange of that color, like that almost burnt orange, and that's just instant 70s for me. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I never lived during that time, so I don't know if everything was as orange as it
there was
appears.
A lot of orange. But the
the only thing we're missing is a fake wood grain.
Yeah, there you go.
Along the prison walls.
So there was this this ugliness to it, and since we're going to talk about the prison sequence, let's I have to bring up Andy Serkis.
Oh yes.
Because
oh my gosh.
Now, I have not really been aware of Andy Serkis's career. I did not see the Planet of the Apes movies, and so apparently he's very famous for those. I know he did Gollum.
He did the mocap for Gollum. He did the mocap for the main ape in the new Planet of the Apes.
Right.
You saw him in The Batman, which is probably your biggest exposure to him.
Well, there's two. So he was Alfred in The Batman, and he was fantastic.
Yeah,
okay.
It was good.
I watched one of the behind the scenes or the pre-CGI clips of him in his mocap doing Snoke.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did do Snoke.
Honestly, if they had just
put him there
with the mocap on, he would have been better than the Snoke that was on screen.
He's a fantastic actor.
Well, he is, and clearly mocap acting doesn't bother him at all.
No.
Now, I remember...
It's a specialty. He was one of the earliest to do it, I think.
Theater classes and guest actors who would come in, and I remember them saying that your surroundings shouldn't matter, props or no props shouldn't matter. Either you can create a character and make it believable, or you can't. Yeah. And he clearly can. And honestly, I hated the CGI of Snoke so much that it was hard to really put a lot of... it's hard to take his character seriously. It was hard to see Snoke as a genuine threat. Yeah. And then I watched this performance without the CGI, and I thought, oh, that was so much better. Mm-hmm. But he is really talented. And then I don't know if you came across this, but I watched a little clip on the IMDb, and it was a video, and it was him being interviewed. How well does he know his own IMDb page? And he revealed that he and Martin Freeman shared a nickname on the set of the Black Panther movie. Mm-hmm. Have you heard this?
No.
Well, apparently, it's almost an all-black cast.
Yes.
They were referred to as the Tolkien White Guys.
That's fantastic.
That is hysterical.
That's fantastic.
The Token White Guys.
White Guys.
It was, that was just, So,
because he was the bad guy in the first Black Panther. He was Claw.
Yeah.
Who was also in Age of Ultron. I forgot about that.
But... And so...
That speech in the prison that he gives... Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a lot. I saw a lot of people praising it online. It was so good.
So... the tragedy of him getting to the
edge
of the
I'm like,
escape
oh
and saying,
no,
I can't swim, and then he's left there.
I know.
And
oh no,
but
oh no,
a moment of oh my goodness, but then his character's abandoned, and as it should be, because the series has to move on. And I will be interested in seeing if in season 2 his character makes an appearance in one way or another, but I'm doubting it.
Yeah, I'm doubting it.
Especially since at the tail end, you sat through the credits, you saw the end sequence, you saw that they were in prison as slave labor building the Death Star.
Yep.
I can't imagine him even surviving that uprising.
No, I can't.
Andy Serkis. So as usual
good.
With our videos, we're just kind of going down a series of rabbit holes.
Oh yeah,
because we don't
structure,
plan what
outline.
Please, I have notes of the things that I want to hit, but that's really about it. Should anyone have been surprised? I wrote this little note to myself. Should anyone have been surprised that they were building the Death Star? No. And yet I was.
I think that it just distracts you from that. Well, it's like they're building such a random part.
Yeah.
That you're like, what is this for? It looks simple, but then you're like, well, if they need teams to build it, why do they need why this isn't a simple part? So what is it for? And it doesn't look like anything we've seen, but it looks like it fits in Star Wars.
Right.
Which is something that I was telling you about when I watched after the first 3 episodes. Mm-hmm. This show, matching the slow burn that is this show.
Right.
This show didn't feel like Star Wars at the beginning. It felt like you could slap any other name on it, and it would have just been whatever generic sci-fi number 37 this year.
Well, except that
As the series goes on, though, the ships start looking more Star Wars. The environment starts looking more Star Wars. You start seeing more aliens in the background.
lightsaber blades pop
Lightsaber blades out of the ship. Yeah, no. As the series goes on, the setting looks more Star Wars. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, because one of the things I noticed, and one thing that I've read, is that in the expanded canon of Star Wars, the Empire is very xenophobic to aliens. Like, they like, keep it... Like, if you notice... And it's obviously a product of the 70s, and it's a retcon to establish the 70s, like, why there are no aliens in the original 3 movies on the Empire's side, but the Rebel Alliance is full of them.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, apparently they're just... The Empire is, like, very xenophobic. Like, not Sidious himself, but he puts it in place as a control mechanism or whatever, and to make people happy. They don't like aliens.
So it's not like Star Trek, where
it's not like Star Trek.
Aliens are part. Keep.
I noticed that as the series goes on, you start to see more aliens, and you don't see a lot of them on Coruscant at the beginning, and then as the series progresses, you see more. So I don't know if that's the writers. I don't know if that's a lucky coincidence, or if the writers are actively paying that much detail attention.
You have,
but it works.
One of the most internationally diverse casts we've seen in a long time.
Yep.
Which is fine. There's
all the actors do a really good job with what they've got.
Exactly. Yeah. It's clearly intentional, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with any of that. That offsets the lack of the creatures, and I would pin that more on the cost of CGI and the cost of makeup and actors, and, spending 18 hours a day on the set because 12 is going into makeup.
Well, let me tell you, when they get to Saw Gerrera's holdout, and I saw the alien standing up there with the rifle on an X-Wing, I just went, yes! This is Star Wars again.
Speaking of Saw Gerrera.
Oh, okay. So good.
We were so disappointed in Saw Gerrera in Rogue One, and we talked about it. It was a wasted performance, not on the part of Forrest Whitaker.
No.
He wasn't giving anything to work with.
Yeah.
And the Saw Gerrera that we met in the Clone Wars, then we see him as an old man, and we're like, what a waste. Yeah, what a wasted opportunity. Holy smokes, did they
difference.
Correct
that. What a difference.
And then we don't criticize the actors for their performances very often at all, right? But, and I'm not about to criticize anyone, but you get Stellan Skarsgård, Forrest Whitaker together. The quality of the performance goes up here.
It was so good.
It was amazing. 2 powerhouses sitting there going at it.
So good. It was so good. And it just because it makes those characters are so, like,
they are intense.
Yes.
They are focused on the same goal. They are
laser focused.
They are going about that goal 2 different ways, and they are willing to give up the other if it serves their purpose.
Yeah. They are ruthless.
Yes.
And they are intense is a great word for it, because Luthen is the character of the show for me. Just hands down.
Okay.
Luthen is the character of the show. And I'm sorry that I feel bad that he has been forced into the mentor role now by the end of the show, which sentenced him to death.
No, I don't. He's not going to survive season 2, but he's playing the most dangerous game.
Oh yes,
and eventually he is going to lose.
But he is setting up Andor to kind of succeed him in a way.
I don't know about that.
Because like Luthen's specialty seems to be covert. He seems to be very good at dealing with people, dealing with information, and planning things. And what is Andor doing in Rogue One? He's
Okay.
leading missions.
All right.
He's
But he's
in
reporting
field
to-
agent.
he's reporting to
He is reporting to somebody, but
Mon
Luthen
Mothma is going to be the character that steps up and takes over.
well, she does. We
And-
see that in Rebels.
Yes.
So they have to line it up with that.
So
But
I would have been fine if I hadn't, with Mon Mothma's performance and characterization and everything, if I hadn't stumbled across an article where the actress is talking about the female political heroes that she has modeled the character after.
Yep.
And I just thought, oh, why do they have to do this? Why do they have to do this? Just
stop making me think about reality when I'm
Yeah.
trying to escape said reality.
Exactly.
Please and thank you.
Yeah, and so, would you please stop injecting modern politics into your discourse about your roles? You want to model your character after someone? Great. Let's not talk about it. Let's not break that fourth wall. And one of the things about this show that I really liked, and one of the reasons why they're building Death Star parts was such a delightful surprise at the end of the show, is that I was able to just sit down and roll with the show for 12 episodes.
Yeah.
The rolling around in the back of my head, the announcement from Disney, we're gonna make sure that we have, gay characters in every episode, and you get this kind of simmering, steaming love affair between Vel and Cinta.
Okay, so this
And-
is going to
and
sound
so-
really bad,
well,
but real quick.
yeah.
This is going to sound really bad, sidetrack. I didn't realize that Vel and, what is her name? Bix
Bix.
were two separate characters until the last episode. I don't know why. I know I saw them. I could not. I don't know why.
The blonde and the brunette, and you didn't.
No, is it Vel or is it who's the she looks Indian.
Cinta.
To middle
Cinta?
Kaz. Oh,
yeah.
then never mind. Kaz.
Yeah,
That's what I meant.
Kaz.
So it's Kaz.
It's
It's
Kaz.
Kaz and Bix.
Oh, gotcha.
Kaz and Bix.
Okay, I can see that. a
That
little
probably
bit more.
sounds very, very white of me to say, but
No, I've confused.
don't-
I've confused characters before.
for an entire show,
Well, okay, I don't know.
I must have not been paying attention because honestly, I was more interested in the Andor, Mon Mothma, and Luthen stories.
Oh, sure, they were fantastic.
They were absolutely fantastic. I think the show could have just focused on those three and still have been just as good.
Well, if Disney hadn't made the announcement, we're going to have these in every movie, I wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be talking about it at all. But it's almost like now you open up a Disney product and you have a checklist. Okay,
Yep.
we've got that character. We've got that character. We've got,
Yep.
as opposed to
Which
just letting people be.
Surprised me with how constrained the politics of the show are. It's still kept in line with Star Wars. Like it helps that Star Wars already set up the Empire is bad, but
Yes.
you have this giant revolution at the end, and it's just that. It's just a revolution against a totalitarian. I'm going to say that to avoid buzzwords
Right.
on YouTube. It is a totalitarian regime, and they because that's what the Empire's always been. So like it was overall very constrained on that side of things.
You know what? And delightfully so,
Yeah.
because you know how quickly I will shut down.
Yeah, the minute
If-
it starts to, because that's one thing about Star Wars. It's always been political, but not always like. George Lucas can say all he wants nowadays what things were supposed to mean, but the dude changed the origin of the Force like 15 times, and whatever. The politics have never been a mirror to ours,
Right.
except for Vader and stormtroopers. Those are pretty obvious.
So, things that I didn't particularly care for, and little side note things, and something that I really enjoyed. B2EMO, B2EMO, the little droid. Okay, a droid with a stutter. Really? Not even a beginner programmer couldn't just go in and rewrite the code and fix that? A droid with a stutter. Okay, at that end, I'm sorry. I just have a hard time buying the emotions that droid projects. So, if you ever watched Star Trek: The Next Generation, and Star Trek always has a character that isn't in touch with its human emotions or with human, trying to learn them, right? And you have Data, who is an android and is programmed, and throughout the entire series until he gets the emotions chip, throughout the entire series, he is cold, clinical, etc. To the point where when he has a girlfriend and they're kissing, and she looks at him and says, "Am I in there anywhere?" "Yes, but I'm also," and then he rattles off like all these complex math problems he's doing in his mind at the same time while he's making out with his girlfriend, and that's the way these creatures should be. No, it's like playing baseball.
Star
Wars,
right? Star Wars has always had like emotional robots though, because like R2-D2 gets angry and he gets mad at C-3PO. C-3PO gets scared all the time. Like I think in Star Wars, it's just droids are like they're human-like.
Right.
And they have emotions.
But this one just bothered me more than
this
the
one
rest.
did?
Yeah, this one just bothered, and it was the stuttering.
Okay.
It was the stuttering.
B2, I am thoroughly convinced, because they seem to be laying it out, that he's going to become K2SO at some point. Like they're gonna take him out and put him in one of the Imperial robots and just stick him in there.
K2SO was hysterical.
I know.
He was absolutely hysterical.
I can't wait. He is confirmed to come back. Same actor in, which is Alan Tudyk.
Right.
Who is fantastic.
He is.
I love him in just about everything he does.
Yep.
He's fantastic. But he's supposed to show up in season 2.
Was that done mocap, or was that just...
some of it was done mocap, yeah.
Okay, so we get the early shots, the long shots of this old lady sitting in a chair, and you hear a voice, and I think I mentioned this to you once before. My very first thought was, that sounds like Leia. Did they recast her? And I remember as the scene is building, thinking, don't be CGI. Don't be CGI, right? And then you get Fiona Shaw.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the screen, and I'm like, it's Mrs. Dursley.
Yeah,
Right?
It's Petunia.
Which is really unfortunate because Fiona Shaw's acting credits huge. The woman has this,
massive IMDb.
Yeah, she's got this.
But everyone knows her as Aunt Petunia.
It is and until here, and it was so nice because the Petunia character was so necessary, but probably so unsatisfying, right? There's no growth in the character, and the actress has to come back for a day's shooting every 3 years.
And there was one scene that they shot for Deathly Hallows that would have been really good. I don't think it was in the books, but it was a shot where Harry is like telling her like, you have to go. You haven't, like, they will hunt you down and kill you. And she's like, you don't think that you think that I don't know what they're capable of? You didn't just lose parents that day. I lost a sister. And it's like, oh. And it was acted really well, and it's like, why would you cut a scene like that? Why would you cut a scene like that? That would have done so much for the movie.
Okay, so
but I digress.
The big mistake that all the Harry Potter movies made was they sacrificed characterization for action. That's why the books were so much better.
Yep.
The books were far superior to the movies. I've always disagreed with those choices. I don't know if we've ever talked about that. We
haven't yet.
Well, we
probably should
have mentioned it on screen, once or twice.
Times,
but there was some meat. There was a moment. I forget which book it was. There was a moment between Harry and Aunt Petunia where there was.
She did. I saw the footage. She did a good job, or maybe it was, or maybe they took a line from the book and put it over the scene. I don't know. It just looked like it did a good job.
But anyways, delightful performance. I enjoyed her soliloquy at the end. And then Andor early on, first few episodes, is going for the joins that crew that's training out in the countryside to go do the big heist. And I'm looking at this one character, and I'm listening to the voice, and I'm thinking, I know this person. I know this person. And then I had to go digging to find out it's David Lieberman from The Punisher. Right.
Yep.
Eben Moss Backrack. I have no idea how we're going to pronounce that. But fantastic job.
Yeah.
And I just knew I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it drops, and he turns out he's not as into the rebellion as
he was more into the money.
He's more into the money.
It had a lot of good characters. It had a lot of good moments.
Yep.
The show, it is a slow burn. It is a
is.
slow burn. The action scenes almost hit harder because they're not anything overly spectacular.
Nope.
But there's some good stunt work, and there's some good set pieces for the action. It just feels more earned because of the slow build up to everything. There's a slow rising tension that leads up to each major action sequence, except for the first one.
When you have a movie that involves Jedi, you basically get the magic ending. It's like a wizard coming in and performing magic. This is nothing like that. This is gritty. This is war. This is sometimes the bad guys win because sometimes the bad guys are just smarter.
Yep. Or they have the better resources. They're in the better spot. This is mature Star Wars. This is how mature Star Wars should be.
Yes.
Not to all the. There's so many people who were saying, we want more mature Star Wars. We want more mature Star Wars. And then this comes out. And it's this is more mature Star Wars. And they're like, no, we didn't want that. It's what did you want? Did you just want a slasher film with a Sith hunting down a bunch of people? Although that would be cool. They just want to see cool force powers and people getting dismembered more often. And
this
more
was far superior to any of that.
Far superior.
And so
far superior, because this shows that there's room in this universe for any type of storytelling. You've got storytelling for kids like Rebels. That's a kids show. That is straight up a kids show. Clone Wars can appease the teens.
Rebels is really good writing.
It is
for a kids show.
It's really good writing. And then you got Clone Wars, which can aim more towards the teenage and adult audiences. You got the movies, which are kind of for everyone. But now you're starting to see Andor is a show that I don't think a kid would be interested in or be able to sit through because I don't think they'd understand
it. Through one episode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's diversifying Star Wars for more audiences, and I think they need to do this more often.
Most definitely.
Disney needs to realize that they can diversify Star Wars for multiple audiences, and it will work.
If I look at the Star Wars universe and I rank what I like, okay, Rogue One,
yep,
okay, Andor, right here, okay, Clone Wars.
Right there.
Okay. Everything else. Okay. It is that good.
Yep,
and
it is good.
Because the development, I've just been revisiting the development of Ahsoka Tano through season 7 of Clone Wars, and then the 3 episodes, that palate cleanser that we just got.
In Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of the Jedi. I mean, what a wonderful bit of storytelling that ties in perfectly. I had to go back to episode 7 and take a look at that scene where she and Rex go out into that battle to see if there was any continuity errors. Did this flow as smoothly as it did? They did a great job. But now, so for me, the delightful ending of this series, I'm spending the whole time watching it, thinking, how are they going to get out of this? How is he? Because he has to get out of it, right? Unless they have this big cliffhanger, right? Which I really didn't think they were going to do. You thought they were.
I figured they were going to do a cliffhanger because season 2, they kind of did a little bit with Luthen and him at the end. It's what are they going to do from here, though?
I'm watching the end, and it suddenly realized they put the Thomas Crown Affair twist in the end of this episode. All right, and hear me out on this one.
Okay.
All right.
I need to go add an iCard
Okay.
to this video.
We did Thomas Crown Affair.
I'm
talked
pointing
about
at it.
Right. Okay.
Go click on it. It should be popped up by now. Movies to watch when bored.
At the end of the Thomas Crown Affair, the remake, the Pierce Brosnan remake, everybody who's trying to catch him and prove that he stole the original piece of art thinks he's trying to return the artwork.
Yeah.
And they're there to catch him when he returns it, not knowing that he had returned it weeks prior. His whole focus is not on returning the artwork. His focus is on stealing a second piece directly out from under this intense scrutiny, because this is just his game.
Yeah.
And it's his intellectual stimulation, because he's pretty much a bored billionaire.
Yep.
All right. And so he does it. He succeeds. And then, because he's basically honest, he returns it. It's a game. It's not trying to steal something, as opposed to the first movie where he takes the money and runs, even though he doesn't need it. Everybody in the Empire is trying to catch Cassian, and they think he's going to return to the planet to attend his mother's funeral.
No.
He isn't interested in his mother's funeral in the slightest.
Nope.
It is the ultimate distraction to his goal of rescuing Bix.
Yep.
And I just sat back and I went, "Oh, you sly dogs.
And then
that was so well done."
And then he gets her out of there and he stays, which just adds to it, because you would think that he's going to escape. So if the Empire goes after that ship, they're going to board it and just find people, maybe Bix if they realize who she is.
Right.
But odds are they won't.
Right.
And then he's kept them safe, and now he's going off with Luthen because Luthen can handle being chased.
Fantastic misdirection.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic.
Ending to the series. There's very little that I have to complain about this series, if anything at all. I think my complaints are so minor, they're almost not worth mentioning.
All right.
I enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed the dialogue. I ultimately enjoyed the pacing, although it was a little bit slow, but it had me asking the entire time what's coming next. It kept me coming back. The reason why I was ahead of you in viewing this is because
You were just so into it.
I was just so into it. I wanted to see the next episode. This was absolutely fantastic. If you haven't seen Andor, sit down and watch it. Don't binge it. This is not an episode or a series.
I
binge.
wouldn't recommend binging it. It would probably be kind of exhausting to try to pay attention to it for like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Because that's what you would be closing in.
And
Probably like 10 hours.
An episode a night for 12 nights, I could see that.
Yeah.
Right, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, this one was absolutely fantastic.
This was a good one. If they can make more Star Wars like this, then you're gonna, as well as like the Mandalorian type stuff,
right?
Then you're gonna have a great balance.
Yes.
Within, and Star Wars is just gonna keep continuing to appeal to a wider
range of,
because this one, it's still topping. It was topping streaming charts. Like, it was like the most watched thing as it was coming out for like the longest time.
That
like
surprised me,
which is weird. All right.
Well, thank you.
You got distracted for a second.
Thank you for tuning into Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches today and listening to us pontificate on Andor. We really did enjoy it.
There was a lot to this show, which means a lot to this episode.
We would love to read your comments. We would love to hear your thoughts on this episode.
Seriously, let us know what you think down below. Hit the subscribe button and the bell while you're down there. It really helps us out.
We would appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's all she wrote.
Thanks for tuning in today.
Have a good one.